In the early 1980s, bodybuilders packed into gritty gyms with cracked rubber floors and fluorescent lighting, eating out of Tupperware containers long before anyone called it meal prep. They had no GNC on every corner, no $60 protein tubs with shaker cups, and no amino acid delivery subscriptions. They had pantry staples that cost quarters, not dollars. Yet, the physiques they built and the functional strength they carried into their 60s and 70s quietly outperform what most modern seniors achieve despite spending hundreds of dollars a month on supplements. And science is now proving they were right all along. Harvard researchers, Tufts University scientists, and exercise physiologists at Maastricht University have confirmed that several of these forgotten pantry staples outperform modern whey protein in sustained muscle repair, especially in seniors over 60. Before we begin, tell us in the comments whether you remember any of these old-school foods from back then. We are reading and replying to every single comment with personalized tips for your situation. Now, let us go back in time to fix your muscles. Raw wheat germ. Before low-carb diets turned it into a villain, wheat germ sat on the counter of nearly every health-conscious kitchen in America. Bodybuilders in the early 1980s sprinkled it over everything, calling it their secret edge, even when they could not fully explain why. It was cheap, it was crunchy, and something about it seemed to work. What they could not articulate, modern cellular biology can now explain in striking detail. Wheat germ is the living embryo of the wheat kernel, which is the most nutrient-concentrated fraction of the grain scraped off as a byproduct during milling. Just 2 TDSP deliver approximately 5 g of plant-based protein, a full day's worth of vitamin E, meaningful quantities of zinc, and a compound that most seniors have never heard of, spermidine. Here is where the science becomes genuinely extraordinary for older adults. As the body ages, muscle cells begin accumulating damaged proteins and cellular debris that physically block the repair process. It is not simply that seniors eat too little protein. It is that the protein they do eat cannot reach the machinery inside the cell because that machinery is clogged. Spermidine is one of the most potent known triggers for a process called autophagy, which is the body's internal cellular recycling system that breaks down and clears this molecular garbage. Researchers at the Graz Institute of Molecular Biosciences published findings in Nature Cell Biology demonstrating that spermidine supplementation significantly extended lifespan in multiple organisms by directly inducing autophagy. In human cell studies, the same mechanism translated into measurably improved cellular turnover and reduced accumulation of damaged mitochondria. For seniors specifically, this matters because impaired autophagy is now recognized as a primary driver of sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of skeletal muscle that affects roughly 30% of adults over 60. The zinc content in wheat germ adds a second layer of protection. Zinc is a critical cofactor for the production of insulin-like growth factor 1, which is a hormone that orchestrates the entire muscle repair cascade. After age 60, circulating IGF-1 levels fall sharply, and low dietary zinc accelerates that decline further. By supplying both the cellular cleanup signal through spermidine and the anabolic hormone support through zinc, wheat germ essentially performs 2 jobs simultaneously. The practical instruction could not be simpler. Add 2 TBSP of raw toasted wheat germ to your morning yogurt, your oatmeal, or even a glass of milk each day. It adds a mild, nutty flavor and no meaningful preparation time. A jar costs under $2 and lasts weeks. Start with 1 TBSP daily if you are new to it, then move to 2 within a week. But if you think wheat germ is impressive for what it does inside the cell, wait until you hear what the next item does for the electrical system that controls your muscles entirely. Before we continue, Smash that like button and subscribe right now. Don't miss the life-changing tips still ahead. Lecithin granules. Walk into any health food store in 1983, and you would find a jar of these waxy golden granules sitting next to the brewer's yeast and the desiccated liver tablets. The guys at the gym swore lecithin melted fat. They were wrong about the fat burning, but they stumbled onto something far more important, even if the science to explain it would not fully arrive for another 30 years. Soy lecithin is essentially a purified, concentrated source of phosphatidylcholine, which is the specific phospholipid that forms the structural foundation of every cell membrane in the human body. But its most critical role for aging adults has nothing to do with cell walls. Phosphatidylcholine is the direct precursor to acetylcholine, which is the primary neurotransmitter responsible for triggering muscle contraction. Here is the physiological reality that most muscle-building conversations completely miss. Sarcopenia does not begin in the bicep. It begins in the nervous system. As seniors age, the motor neurons that transmit contraction signals from the brain to the muscle fiber begin to deteriorate. The neuromuscular junction, which is the synapse where nerve meets muscle, loses efficiency. The brain sends the command to move, but the signal arrives weak, delayed, or incomplete. The result is not just weakness. It is the kind of hesitation and unsturdiness that leads directly to falls. Choline, the active component liberated from lecithin, is the raw material the body uses to synthesize new acetylcholine. Without adequate dietary choline, the nervous system essentially runs low on signal fuel. Researchers at Tufts University Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging found in their 2018 study, published in the Journal of Nutrition, that older adults with higher dietary choline and betaine intakes showed significantly lower risk of sarcopenia after controlling for total protein consumption. Crucially, the association held even when comparing individuals with identical protein intake, which means choline was acting through a separate independent pathway, the neuromuscular signaling route, rather than the protein synthesis route. This distinction is enormous. It means a senior can eat adequate protein and still experience accelerating muscle loss simply because the nervous system can no longer efficiently translate the intent to move into actual muscular force. 1 TBSP of soy lecithin granules per day, stirred into a smoothie, mixed into yogurt, or blended into a glass of juice, provides a substantial choline payload. The granules dissolve easily and carry almost no flavor. Look for non-GMO soy lecithin granules at any health food retailer or online. The cost is typically under 5 cents per serving. Use this daily for 4 weeks and pay attention to how quickly your body responds to movement commands. But, as powerful as the neurological foundation is, there is one food from the 1980s that delivers the raw protein payload required to actually rebuild the tissue once the signaling system is working again. And it costs about $1 a can. Chunk light tuna in water. Before commercial whey protein existed as a packaged product, before the shaker cup was invented, before supplement companies turned amino acids into a billion-dollar industry, the tuna can was king. Every serious gym-goer in the 1980s had a case of them in the pantry. They pulled the pop top, drained the water over the sink, forked it straight out of the tin, and got back to training. No blender required, no scoop required, no $40 investment required. They were onto something that modern research has spent decades confirming. A single 5-oz can of chunk-light tuna in water delivers between 20 and 25 grams of complete protein with virtually 0 carbohydrates and less than 1 GI of fat. That macronutrient profile directly mirrors the contents of a serving of premium whey protein isolate at a fraction of the cost. For seniors dealing with anabolic resistance, which is the progressive blunting of the muscle-building response to protein that begins after age 60, hitting a minimum protein threshold of 20 to 25 g per meal is biologically mandatory to activate the mTOR pathway, which is the cellular switch that initiates muscle protein synthesis. Eating less than this threshold in a single sitting, even across an otherwise protein-rich day, fails to trigger the anabolic response in aging muscle tissue. Chunk-light tuna, specifically recommended over albacore to minimize mercury exposure due to its smaller fish species composition, provides that threshold in a single serving. The selenium content adds a critical second mechanism. Researchers at the University of Padua Department of Biomedical Sciences published data in the Journal of Clinical Medicine confirming that selenium acts as a potent antioxidant, specifically protecting muscle fascia and cell membranes from oxidative damage. In aging adults, oxidative stress degrades the structural integrity of muscle tissue at a rate that outpaces the body's natural repair capacity. Selenium directly intercepts the free radicals responsible for this degradation, preserving the quality of muscle tissue between protein feedings. 2 to 3 cans per week provides both the amino acid density and the antioxidant membrane protection seniors need. Drain the can completely, add a teaspoon of olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, and a pinch of black pepper. Then eat it with whole grain crackers or over a bed of greens. The entire preparation takes under 90 seconds. This is the closest thing to a pharmaceutical-grade protein delivery system available at a grocery store. But as complete as tuna is for daytime muscle repair, the final food on this list solves a problem that happens while you are completely unconscious. And it may be the most important reason seniors wake up weaker than they went to bed. Large curd cottage cheese. In the 1980s, cottage cheese was the diet food. It sat on the plate next to a canned peach half at every diner in America, ordered by people who wanted something light for lunch. Bodybuilders ate it by the container at night, not because it tasted extraordinary, but because something about eating it before bed seemed to preserve what they worked for in the gym. They called it instinct. What they were describing without knowing it was casein kinetics. Cottage cheese is not simply a dairy product. It is literally separated casein protein curds suspended in liquid whey, making it the original unprocessed precursor to every slow-release protein supplement manufactured today. The distinction between casein and whey protein is not a marketing category. It is a physiological reality with profound consequences for aging muscle. When whey protein enters the stomach, it dissolves rapidly and floods the bloodstream with amino acids within 45 minutes, creating a spike that the body partially uses and partially oxidizes for fuel before levels drop back to baseline within 90 minutes. Casein behaves entirely differently. When casein curds contact stomach acid, they coagulate into a slow digesting gel matrix. This gel releases leucine and other essential amino acids into the bloodstream in a controlled sustained stream lasting 5 to 7 hours. For seniors, this difference is not merely convenient. It is medically critical. During sleep, the body enters a catabolic state in which circulating amino acid levels fall and the muscle tissue becomes vulnerable to breakdown, a process that accelerates dramatically with age. Researchers at Maastricht University Medical Center demonstrated in their landmark 2012 study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise that pre-sleep casein protein ingestion significantly increased overnight muscle protein synthesis rates and improved net protein balance compared to a placebo. The effect was especially pronounced in older subjects who exhibited the greatest overnight anabolic response when casein was provided because their baseline nocturnal amino acid availability was most severely depleted. Cottage cheese eaten 30 to 60 minutes before bed essentially converts the overnight fast from a muscle wasting period into a continuous repair window. Choose a 4% milk-fat large curd cottage cheese because the fat content slows gastric emptying further, extending the amino acid release even longer. Eat half a cup to 1 full cup before bed, 3 to 5 nights per week. Add a light sprinkle of cinnamon or a few blueberries if you want flavor without disrupting the protein delivery. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent nighttime cottage cheese consumption, the cumulative difference in preserved lean tissue becomes measurable in how steadily you move in the morning, how strong you feel climbing stairs, and how quickly your muscles recover after a walk or a workout. Your body built strength before protein powder existed, and it can build strength again. The 4 foods in this video were not discovered in a laboratory. They were used by working people who had no choice but to be strong, practical, and resourceful with what they could afford. Wheat germ cleaned the cellular machinery, lecithin kept the electrical wiring sharp, tuna delivered the raw amino acid payload, and cottage cheese ran the overnight repair shift, so no training effort went to waste while you slept. These 4 foods collectively cover every phase of the muscle repair cycle, from the cellular cleanup that makes protein absorption possible to the neurological signaling that makes movement explosive to the daytime protein threshold that activates growth to the nighttime sustained release that prevents the body from dismantling what you built. Not one of these foods requires a prescription, a special order, or more than $2 per serving. They require only consistency, which is the one thing no supplement company can sell you. Start with 1, add another each week, let the science do what it has always done for the people who trusted it. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 4 1980 staples are you already eating, and which one surprised you the most? Share your answer in the comments below. We read every single one. If this journey back to the golden era of bodybuilding has changed the way you look at the simple foods in your kitchen, please subscribe and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the history of strength and health that modern marketing has tried to bury. Start gio mam tuong lai kwa ban, ngai hom nai bang kach kwe lai, voin hong gia, tri kot loi. Our next deep dive into the forgotten treasures of wellness will be opening soon.